This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Welcome to another episode of Coffee Chat with Smart People. No, wait a second. It's The Speaking Show. And my special guest, coming to you not from yesterday, not from today, but from tomorrow, Deb Reuben of TomorrowZone.io. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, David. Thanks so much for having me.
So first, I think we need to explain to people listening that they have not entered a time-space warp continuum, but they are in the Tomorrow Zone. And what is the Tomorrow Zone? Tell us about what that is and how you came up with that framework.
Sure. TomorrowZone is the name of my consulting company, but it's also the way that I think about things. So TomorrowZone is all about staying on top of technology and trends so that you can stay ahead of tomorrow. We know that we are surrounded by so many rapidly advancing technology innovations. And it's so important for leaders and professionals now more than ever to stay up on these things so that you can stay relevant for the future. And so when you spend some time in the Tomorrow Zone thinking about multiple future possibilities, when you step back to today, it changes the decisions that you make and the actions that you take.
So let's talk about some of these technologies, because some of these technologies have all kinds of scary names and scary acronyms, and people have heard them in passing. And, we're all going to be working for the robots at some point. And that's not really quite true, but obviously sticking your head in the sand or not being fully informed is not the path to a successful tomorrow. What are some of these technologies and trends that people need to be aware of and that you help them integrate into their business futures?
There are so many. I have been tracking 9 different technology categories for many years now. I think that the things that people need to pay attention to, they're all around us. We're interacting with these things every day, but we need to understand where they're going so that we can understand the possibilities for the future. And it opens our eyes to new ways of doing business. So think about things like cloud-based technologies. It's the ability to be able to work anywhere, anytime, without being tied to specific devices or even specific servers. It allows you to be able to work anywhere, anytime. But also, cloud technology is kind of like an on-ramp to awesome. It gives you the ability to access advanced technology capability that you'd never be able to interact with if you were responsible for building all of the technology infrastructure to run those types of technologies. And by that, I mean things like accessing artificial intelligence capability, intelligent automation, robotic process automation. If you had to set up the infrastructure to do that, I mean, for myself as a consultant, I'd never be able to set up, the computing power necessary to run those types of processes. Accessing Internet of Things, connected devices, the ability to tap into blockchain and distributed ledger technology. When we are able to access all these technologies in the cloud, it just opens up whole new possibilities.
Wow. Did you say on-ramp to awesome?
I did.
And I'm guessing that's a super highway with many on-ramps to many parts of awesome, correct?
Yeah, the awesome super highway. I mean, an example of that, you said, are we all going to be working for robots? But in my business, for the past 4 years, a robot has been working for me. If you remember back in the day when the iPhone came out, there was a commercial and they would always say, if you want to do this, there's an app for that. Well, because I've been tracking artificial intelligence capability for some time and have an understanding of how fast that technology is progressing, I'm always thinking about things like, well, I wonder if there's an AI for that. And so I was tired of scheduling meetings and I found an AI that actually does my meeting scheduling for me. And it started out as natural language interactions where the robot was having an English conversation with the person that wanted to meet with me and negotiating time and place. That robot has saved me about 40 hours a year now over the past 4 years. So when I think of my org chart and I think of who does what, I actually have robots in some of the boxes. And that's just an example of how, cloud technologies allow us to tap into capabilities that can accelerate and amplify what we can do as professionals.
Now you apply this many, many places. You've got lots of awesome clients. You've got, speaking and consulting, all over. But I know you've also developed an affinity for a specific industry and a specific niche. And more importantly, they've developed an affinity for you. So tell us how that came about. Tell us what that industry is and some of the great work that you're doing in that industry.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of my work is in the equipment finance industry. So if you think about all of the businesses in our country, they all use some sort of equipment to make their business happen, whether it's restaurant equipment, transportation, printing equipment, medical, technology, you name it. And so it's close to $1 trillion industry. And I work with the finance companies. They might be bank owned or manufacturing captives or independent lessors who provide this financing for businesses who need access to equipment. I also work with the service providers who serve the industry, and I do a lot of work with the associations in the industry as well. And how did that happen? So I was working in technology and I ended up getting a job as an application developer at an equipment finance company. I had no idea what equipment finance was, but I worked very closely with people from every aspect of the business to understand how the business works so that I could design and build applications to help them automate their business. And then did that for a number of years and then was recruited to be part of the startup of a bank equipment finance company, which is rather large now. I did that for a number of years, always playing a role in between business and technology strategy. So I was always looking for what's next. And, I would design and build applications and automations, but then immediately be looking for what's next. How do we scale this thing? How do we grow? Always on the lookout for ways to leverage technology to make awesome happen. So been involved in that industry for a long time and been doing a lot of work, speaking, workshops, consulting, even coaching teams through wicked tricky implementation projects, but always doing work that's in that intersection of, business, technology, and future strategy.
Wow. Now, when you were looking at sort of where to take the business, because I know that this is one of the toughest things that experts and speakers and consultants wrestle with as far as a decision. They say, I came out of the X industry, and the reason I started my own business, I want to get as far away from those people as humanly possible. And yet, that's where you've got the best names to drop, the best stories to tell, the biggest network, the most familiarity with the lingo and the problems and the challenges and sort of the feet on the ground experience. But people go, no, I started my own entrepreneurial business to get away from those people. How have you found, or what do you see as the differences working in that industry versus being a consultant and a speaker and a facilitator and a thought leader for that industry?
I think by focusing on that industry and continuing to develop and evolve within that industry, it actually opens doors for me to expand outside of that industry if I wanted to. I had a mentor a long time ago who gave me the greatest advice, and he said, always be a student of your business. And so I have done just that. I mean, I've studied the leaders in our industry and I've studied how the business works and the technology now and the future possibilities of technology. And I'm just fascinated by it. It's an industry that's continually changing, continually evolving. And, it's necessary to make awesome things happen for any kind of business. And so the way that I see it is if I can succeed in this industry, a lot of the type of work that I do is portable. And the people that I work with are a gateway to any industry that I might be interested in. And I've actually found that my work, I'm being pulled into other industries as clients recommend me to their clients. So I've been doing work in commercial real estate, in manufacturing, software. I think by having that niche focus, you're able to really develop expertise In fact, I wrote the book for certification in our industry. Imagine that. I have a technology background, but I've studied our business that much that working with 40 subject matter experts from across every single facet of the industry was able to compile the body of knowledge that people study to get certified in our industry. And I just think, having that business and technology expertise in balance is really helpful. And how can you do that if you're trying to serve every industry all at once?
Amen times 10. And the mantra that we always share is focus on what you want, and you can always take what comes. So once you've established that expertise, once you become that rock star go-to expert like you are, people start to notice and like, hey, we need to get her over here. It's like, I don't know. Do you think she'll work with us? Because, I don't know if we qualify. I don't know if we're good enough. I don't know if we're big enough. I don't know if we're advanced enough. It's like, give her a call. Roll the dice, see what happens. Maybe Deb will be able to take you on as a client if you're lucky. If you're lucky. Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. Now, let's talk about virtual events, because this is another area of your expertise and your brilliance. And we're just weathering this whole kind of COVID-19 storm, and hopefully it's passing. Storm clouds might be moving on. Who knows how long? Well, you know how long, of course, because you're in the Tomorrow Zone. But the rest of us don't know quite how long. But you've really mastered this virtual and digital event production, and it's really digital experience of how people gather online, how they exchange information, how to make these very rich and valuable experiences. Some might argue, like me, I'm arguing, that these might even be more valuable than in-person experiences, because there are some things you can do in the digital world that you simply cannot do at a live in-person event. So walk us through all of that. And then I'd love to tap into where you see kind of the hybrid events that we are going to be doing in the future, because some of these technology and digital innovations that you're going to share, I don't think they're going away. If people are smart, they're not going away. But walk us through kind of the whole digital event experience and then where things are going.
Oh, this is so exciting right now. So I've been working remote for over 12 years, and I've been collaborating digitally for even longer than that. And it's been so exciting to see how the technology has evolved. And if this COVID crisis had happened even 5 years ago, we wouldn't be in the place that we're in now. I mean, we are seeing such an amazingly rapid adoption of digital work style and digital tools that I think even last year people would have resisted. But necessity, they say, is the mother of invention, and sounds cliche, but it's happening. And we're seeing people out of necessity reinventing how they're working and how they're meeting. And so I think the digital event space, and I love that you said digital experience, because that's how I think about it. An event is just an event. And I think what sets an event apart is when you really think about the experience first. The attendee experience, the speaker experience, the sponsor experience, the host experience. What are the people experiencing? And then what do you want them to experience? And then work backward. There are so many technologies that can help you to deliver that experience. So I've been experimenting even before this. I mean, I was doing events in a virtual world and doing web meetings and doing digital visual facilitation with groups. I used to be a software company product manager, and I had a software engineering team that was in another country. And so we had to find ways to effectively work together virtually when we couldn't be together in person. And so I'm finding that humans are very adaptable. And when they need to, they will adapt these new styles of working together. And so some of the different things that I've tried, I've been doing just casual meetups I used to do meetups in person. I started a women's blockchain meetup in the Twin Cities a couple of years ago, co-founded with a friend. And we were meeting in person, but when this crisis happened, we needed to start meeting virtually. And so we moved those online, and people they acclimated very quickly, and, doing things through visual whiteboard tools where we can create visuals together all at the same time through Zoom and other Microsoft Teams and other meeting platforms. It allows us to see each other with video and have great audio, and we can communicate in real time. But I think the thing that we might forget is when we're designing digital experiences, if you step back and think about all the possibilities that technology opens up to us, we can start to reimagine these events for a digital first experience. I just ran a workshop this morning with a client right before our conversation, David, and this is a client that was used to working with me in person, and we would do these intense, super creative workshops where we would be solving wicked and tricky cross-functional problems. And we were co-creating visuals by throwing lots of stickies on the wall, whiteboard discussions. Well, today we just did our first meeting on a virtual whiteboard platform. And they were a little bit scared at first, but by the time we were done with our first 90-minute session, they were stoked and excited for the next meeting. And the thing that digital allows us to do is to combine synchronous and asynchronous communication. It allows us to be able to schedule differently because we don't have to find the perfect time where we can get everybody together in the same room at the same time. We can do things real time, and we can do things asynchronous. We can automatically capture the meeting as we go. We don't have to transcribe later. We don't have to take photos of sticky notes on the wall. We don't have to rebuild the picture later. We're actually co-creating these living, breathing digital assets as we go. And we have an infinitely expandable whiteboard space to work in together. And it just changes the game. It also levels the playing field. I mean, imagine when you're working with a large group and you've got teams that are co-located, and maybe you've got 2 different offices going, and then you have a few other people that are dialing in remotely. What happens is certain groups that are together start to dominate the conversation. But when everybody's remote, it totally levels the playing field, and it changes the dynamic of your discussions. And what we're finding is that we're actually moving faster, and we're getting more momentum more quickly than we ever did before, because we're seeing things at the same time. We're interacting, we're moving things around and creating these pictures together, and we hear each other and we see each other, and it's like being together, but it's so much more rich and it's so much more flexible than if we were doing this in person. And I think that, thinking digital first, whether we're creating a large event or a small event, it makes all the difference, and it opens up new possibilities for completely reinventing the experience.
So let's also be clear, because there's a really cool innovation that's happening here. You're not just participating in these events, and you're not just delivering in these formats for your clients. You are also producing for and with some clients. You're producing these events to help them reach their stakeholders or their audience or their client base or their user base. So it's kind of like you've mastered this tool set, and now it's digital experience production for hire. So how did that come about, where you're doing it, you're teaching it, and now we're doing it for them or with them?
Yeah, this is a new area of my business. So before the world blew up, I was collaborating with a media company and designed and helped them produce an in-person event. It was all about disruptive innovation. And then suddenly we're not able to have in-person events. And so I worked with them, and they hired me to help them. And I designed and moderated a 2-part live stream event for the equipment finance industry. It was a really interesting experience, but it covers the whole end-to-end experience, thinking about how do I want the speakers to feel, and what do I want them to experience, and what do I want the experience to be for the audience, and going beyond just a talking head webinar. but actually creating an industry level conversation about topics that we care about the most. And at the time it was, oh my gosh, what are we doing? The world just blew up. Nothing is the same. And how are we all dealing with it? We were able to create a very genuine, interactive conversation with about 400 people. It was really fun, just interacting with the panelists and interacting with the audience in real time. But it, just does take some design to produce those things. So yeah, that's another fun new area that I'm getting into in my business.
Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. At the risk of giving people just enough toys to be dangerous, because obviously it's not about the toys or the tech, it's about the experience design and the outcome and the crafting this very intentionally. But what are some of your favorite tools and tech for this kind of digital experience, digital meeting delivery that you like and that you recommend to your clients?
So the way that I think about tools is that's the thing you think about last. It always depends on what you're trying to achieve and what is that experience that you want to deliver for your audience. Who is your audience? Whether it's GoToWebinar or Zoom or Microsoft Teams for large events. My favorite right now is Zoom. I've been using Zoom for a few years now. It just works. It's so easy. So I think, a lot of people are very swift to adopt, and it's easy for people to get into. When it comes to smaller meetings, when I'm facilitating and working with a virtual team, I try to keep the tech as simple as possible. And so you need to have a way to communicate in real time. And then you need to have a way to go visual as fast as possible. And so for the visuals, the simplest visual is just sharing a simple text editor, notepad or something. I use Microsoft OneNote for a lot of my projects. And so sometimes I'll just facilitate right in a OneNote page. The main thing is you want everybody to see the same thing. It's hard to be on the same page when you don't all see the same page. For more creative work, I like tools where you can actually be co-creating at the same time. And there are so many digital tools for this. Quick web search will reveal. You can just search for digital whiteboards. The ones that I'm looking at right now are Miro, that's Miro, and Mural. And those have proven to be very effective. There's also, another tool that I've used to facilitate virtual creative visuals is mind mapping tools. So I've also used MindMap, which is accessed right within Google Drive, Google Docs. And MindMeister is another one. And that just helps you to co-create a very rich mind map visual for a brainstorming session. So whether you need to simulate sticky note brainstorming session or a mind map, or you just want to draw on a whiteboard, there's a myriad of tools that you can access for this. I think the key, though, is to think about your goal first and think about your audience first. And, you want to bring your audience from A to Z. What is Z? And then work backward. Always think about the tech last.
Absolutely right. Give us the two mind mapping names again.
MindMap is the name of one.
MUP.
Yeah.
MindMap. And then the other one is?
And that you can access right in Google Drive, Google Docs. And then the other one is called MindMeister. It's MEISTER, MindMeister, all one word. And that one's really interesting because you can get in and you can work all at the same time in the same mind map. So it's got the collaboration sharing features. So,
very cool.
Yeah, I'm always trying new tools. So ask me next week and I might have a different list.
But, it's so true what you said about think about the tech last. This is when people say, oh, David, you've done 160 podcast episodes. Hey, what kind of microphone are you using? It's like, dude, that doesn't matter. If I tell you what microphone I'm using, that's not going to let you do 160 episodes with amazing, fantastic guests like Deborah Reuben. It's nothing to do with the tech, right? Come up with the strategy, come up with the value, figure out the outcome. And then I'm with you. I like to keep the tech super simple and all the crazy stuff that I'm doing. And people say, oh, do I need this and this and this and this? Like, no, you need to think about your audience, think about your client, think about what is the best possible outcome and objective that they're paying you to deliver, and then simplify the heck out of it until you've just whittled it down to give them exactly that with the least tech, the least complexity, and the best experience.
Absolutely.
Tremendous.
Yeah. And I think, spending some time in the TomorrowZone exploring what's possible helps you in those decisions, because I'm always experimenting and exploring and keeping tabs on what's new and what's possible. I can think about the customer first, because I know that I'll figure out what technology it's going to take. That's the least of my worries. The tech is usually the easiest part.
Well, let's talk about this, because I think this is a very important part, not only of your work, but of what your recommendation is to all of your clients and all of your audiences, which you said, spend some time in the TomorrowZone. And what that really means is setting aside dedicated time to literally think about your future. Think about your company's future, do some scenario planning, look at some trends. It's what the old Wayne Gretzky quote always encourages us to do, which is skate to where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is right now. That's where people end up chasing their tail, and they're always buffeted by technology and disruption and craziness. If you skate to where the puck is going to be, then you're much better off. What are some strategies and some practices when you tell someone, hey, think about your company's future, think about your industry's future? They go, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. How do we think about our company's future or our industry's future? Even just what starter set of questions do you like to give your clients?
I actually use a framework. So first of all, it's important to really get a handle on understanding the difference between linear and exponential progress, and recognize that technology is progressing at an exponential pace in many, many categories for many reasons that go beyond Moore's Law. We won't get into all that detail right now, but when you have that foundational understanding, then you can start to see where the puck is going. When you know the pace at which these technologies are advancing, you can start to think about your business in a new way, because you can predict the capabilities of the future. There should be an AI to be able to do this by this time, for example. Or, as I'm thinking about things, I go, well, by this time, there should be an AI that can do this, whatever the capability is that I'm looking for, vision or whatever. So you need to understand how fast the tech is moving. And then you need to watch the trends that might impact your business or your industry over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's important to look at these trends and watch these trends across multiple categories. There's an acronym that's popular for this: STEEP: societal, technological, economic, environmental, and political. Looking at the trends that are happening across all those different facets can help you to get a better picture of what's going on. And as you're thinking about the future of your company, don't only think about what's going on inside of your company. You need to look at what's going on outside of your company as well. And when you're thinking about these trends, ask yourself, what is the likelihood that this trend is going to continue? And what would be the impact to us if it did? And not only the impact to you directly, what's the impact for your customers? And what's the impact for your partners? Just kind of expanding your vision there. And then the next thing that I encourage is creating your own technology watch list, because we were just talking about technology earlier, and there are so many options. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed by all of the possibilities. Where do you even begin? But when you create a technology watch list, you're actually creating filters for yourself to focus in on the technology capabilities that might be most relevant to your business now and into the future. And so where you begin, I recommend starting where you're most curious. I have 9 different categories that I've been watching for quite some time, but I change them up every so often. But the ones that I'm always watching for are artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and blockchain, because I think that some interesting business model innovation possibilities are possible at the intersection of those, especially in the equipment finance industry and many industries. And so when you create your watch list, you can start to just in your daily reading or in your, if you have a reading habit or if you have certain news sources that you watch, just watch for those. Maybe you're watching 3 technologies. You'll start to notice when you see new reports of new innovations and new applications of these technologies, or you'll start to hear reports of what's going on in the lab and new discoveries, and track those things. So I use a tool called Pocket. And as I run across new findings, new discoveries, I just save the bookmark and tag it. And now whenever I'm looking for, what am I seeing in AI over the past 6 months, I can just pull up a list by those tags and find all of those discoveries that I've been tracking, and then start to look at the trends and look at the possibilities. So having your technology watch list is really helpful. It's kind of like, I really like the Tesla. When I started to get interested in that, I started to see them everywhere. And it's like that with your technology watch list. When you set your intention for the trends and the tech that you're going to pay attention to, you'll start to notice whether you're at an event or you're in a meeting with colleagues, or even in your meetings with your own team, you could be talking about these things and you're reading. Just stack it onto the habits and the activities that you're doing today. And then the last piece is really making time. We can all say we don't have time, but you can make time. It doesn't take that long, even 20 minutes, to step back and look at, what am I seeing that's going on across these trends and with these technologies, and what might it mean to my business, to my industry, or even personally to my professional career? And what can I do about it? Do I need to start learning something? Do I need to stop doing something? Is there an experiment that I could do so that I could get hands-on understanding and go a little deeper? It's just about making the time. And there are a lot of different tools that you can use to do this. I like to do thought experiments and come up with multiple possible futures. I actually did this when the world blew up and we couldn't do our on-site meetings anymore. And I had to figure out, where do I think things are going? Instead of thinking about it as, are we going to be doing meetings together in person or not? Like either or, I forced myself to try to come up with as many scenarios as I could for possible futures. And I came up with 5 or 6 that helped me to see, you know what? My best bet is going to be going all in on digital, where physical presence is an option, but digital first. That's how I determined my direction. And it's just by stepping back and making the time to consider all these things that you're watching, and then think about, what does that really mean for me?
Wow. Well, as we're wrapping it up, I know people's the wheels are going 110 miles an hour. They're in their mental Tesla. And the question they're asking is, how can I get connected and stay connected to more Deb Reuben brilliance and the Tomorrow Zone? Where can we send people? What links do we have that they can get more info?
So you can find me on my website, TomorrowZone.io, and I have a thought experiment that you can do if you want to put this into practice. And it's a tool that will help you to create your own technology watch list. And so you can find that at TomorrowZone.io/list. Simple. So download that and give it a try, and it'll help you create your technology watch list. And then it challenges you for a week to watch for and capture what you're seeing and think about your future a bit. I am also very active on LinkedIn. So you can find me there, Deborah Reuben on LinkedIn.
Tremendous. And it's tomorrowzone.io/list.
Yes.
That's the goodie. That's the download. Well, Deb Reuben, we have to have you back simply because things are flying so fast and furious that, who knows, this will be a completely different interview when we do it again. But always a pleasure, my friend. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.